Welcome to a true spiritual adventure story like the world has never known. Volume 1, Living the Enlightened Life, with your host, Dr. James Yogadhi Weldon. Hello friends, this is Dr. Jim Weldon, Yogadhi, continuing our discussion of the secret journey to the enlightened mind, living the enlightened life. Those of you that I encourage you to listen to the last chapter. I'm actually hot from that discussion because I was talking about the gift of grace that I received at this time in my life. And to go back, at this point, I'm actually in Switzerland. I've completed a 6-month meditation program with the spiritual teacher, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And we just completed having a meeting with another enlightened spiritual teacher. We've just completed having that meeting. This is a very, very, very intense time in my life to be with such tremendous beings and to have a chance to be in the presence of such high consciousness. Those of you that know me from my involvement with the Art of Living, the founder of the Art of Living was there at that time. He was a young boy, 20 years old. He was in this intense meeting. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know it for many years, but something happened there that opened me up to the potentialities of life. And this is the first time I was exposed to spiritual scripture. Yeah, I'd read a little bit in the Bhagavad Gita. We'd read some of this. This was the first time that I had a chance to be around such tremendous beings. And I've just finished being some time with Maharishi, and then another good friend of his, Swami Muktananda, came and visited him. And I'm reading and looking at this very interesting book written, comes down from the past, talking about the nature and character of the spiritual teacher. You can call them whatever you want. It doesn't make any difference. They ask for that. But in the Indian tradition, of course, they're known as gurus. And gurus, we're a guru to many people. You know, the mother has a responsibility of guiding the child. The professor has a responsibility of guiding the students. We're surrounded by people who are bringing us from darkness to light. But the Sadguru, the true teacher, the spiritual teacher, is of a unique characteristic. And I wish there were zillions of them in the world. Unfortunately, there aren't. It would certainly make it a lot easier for all of us. Imagine if there were 50 such beings like that, if you've had a chance to be around such beings in your town, okay? And you're just walking down the road and they come by and they go, oh, I'm feeling this. And they say, don't worry, just let it go, you know? And they'd say, it's going to be okay. And the blessings would be all around you, but it's not, unfortunately. The benefit of this time in the world is that we have global transportation. And such great high beings have the ability to travel from place to place. And we can go there. It's not so difficult. And then also through through the internet like this, you know, I can talk to millions of people. And, you know, I'm sharing my story essentially because, as far as I know, nobody in the West has ever talked openly about this. And typically, it's not something you share. It's normally kept private. And I'm not doing it because, you know, oh, Yogadhi, I have a need to be in any particular place. I have no requirement at all. Zero. But we need a bridge. And a lot of this deeper knowledge in the West, and obviously even with many of my friends in India, is not readily available. And so it's important to bring something kind of down to the ground and make it all very, very practical, that it is real, it is attainable, it is doable. Regardless of what you think about this culture or that culture, you know, the world has wise beings in every culture, and at certain times, they bring in knowledge which is suitable for that age, suitable for the level of people's understanding. That's how I see it. So continuing now from chapter 9, which is talking about the spiritual gift that I received. I haven't talked about that yet. And I've really just been introduced to spiritual chanting and mantras. I've been secretly reading in Switzerland in my little room there up on the mountains over Lake Lucerne about this one particular scripture called the Gita on the teacher, the spiritual teacher, called the Guru Gita. But what I feel by hearing this sung and being around the words is more than the words could ever convey. You know, there's a deeper level of communication, heart to heart, being to being. And I hope that in spite of what's going on, you're listening from that place. Set aside your point of view, because what I'm going to discuss here is not easily understood, and certainly wasn't understood by me for many, many years. But I felt the sound of those Sanskrit words, the vibrations filling the sounds, felt me with a new intensity of, I was experienced chakras and energy in the body, so for light and bliss and divine consciousness. It brought me into a whole new dimension of that. And I saw for the first time with absolute crystal clarity the reason that these sounds can be used in meditation with such powerful effect. They're not just words. Aman, Oman, Om, Amen. These are mantras. And even the names of the great beings, they can become like forces. Allah, for sure. For sure. There's tremendous power behind these. They're not just words. And it was said that many thousands of years ago, these sounds were heard, experienced by the seers, the rishis, in these highest states of consciousness. And after many years of personal practice, they were privately given out to students. And when they're used in turn with respect and perseverance, I really do believe they contain a spark of enlightenment from the teacher. There's something there. So they pass along a gift of grace, and in time, the students that persevere with this, they can come to live that same consciousness. And in meeting with Maharishi and then with Muktananda that day, something inexplicable happened to me. And there are questions that literally burned within me. Accepting something as true and knowing something is true and living something as true are totally different. I needed to know if what I was hearing here in this ancient scripture talking about the status and the quality of a true teacher was true. And so the next time I promised myself that I was meeting with Maharishi in Switzerland, I would ask if this is true. And 2 days later, my opportunity came. So about 20 of us in Maharishi are sitting in a small motel meeting room in the new hotel on the side of the mountain in Switzerland. And he's sitting as usual on a small little white couch with a table in front. Around him are various assistants, Indian and Western. And the people that you may wonder were there, they certainly were there, including my future spiritual teacher as well. And it's a working meeting, and everybody's brought their little projects to discuss. Everybody's trying to invent a project because that way you can get the attention and you can have a discussion. So between two of discussion, there's a little break in conversation. And I'm feeling such gratitude to be here for this transformation of my life. Such a short time ago, I was bundled with problems. Drugs, alcohol, the politics of my generation, and literally the possibility of going to prison were absolutely consuming me at that time. Now all of that was gone. And where did it go? it was like a cloud of mist had vanished, and I'm trying to peer through and see the reality. And just sitting there with the Maharishi was so amazing. He was really giggly. He carried infectious joy, and we were all enraptured and swimming in that happiness just by kind of being there. Imagine being in a big fireplace and you're really cold and you want to kind of get up and get warm. That's kind of how it is. And as I looked about his face, it was like a swarm of energy, like a thick, thick honey had filled the room. It was tangible. I could taste this. I could taste it, feel it. And I think back, I don't feel like the same person I was 4 years ago. It's like that was not even me. So many fears had vanished like smoke, and they were replaced by clarity and peace. Did I do anything? I really didn't do anything. All I did is learn this practice of meditation and do it regularly, and had the opportunity. I figured I quit smoking so I could spend 30 years kind of sharing some of this. And I shared what I had learned with a few people. And I wondered, did he change me? No, because I hardly knew him. You know, it was the knowledge that I received that affected me, that transformed me. The knowledge had rescued me, and knowledge, obviously, some force of grace, you know, that I'm finding within my own mind. I'm wondering, does he feel all these trappings of spirituality? You know, all these flowers and the stage and the couches. And, you know, when you go into a bank, you expect to have the bars and the person sitting there, you expect those specific trappings of strength. And so I think that a lot of this, all the clothes and all of that, really didn't matter, but it was more for us for show, so that we could kind of sense. And he didn't seem to care. And suddenly there's a break in the conversation, and Maharishi turns to look at me as if he's waiting. And I blurt out my question. And I say, is it true that the Guru is God? Just 5 words. But these 5 words contain 1,000 more. What's going on? Here, life. Can I really find the depth of truth of the divine? And it's like a huge chasm of emptiness opens up between us. And I wait for him to speak. And I wait, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait. And he says nothing. You know, and my chattering mind is going, why? Why? Here I've asked the deepest, most profound question I know, and he says nothing. He was unable to speak. Nothing is said, but something else happens. And he perceives my desire for truth. And suddenly it's like a giant fire has suddenly ignited everything. This whole room lights up with it, with the spiritual energy, the power of love. This amazing power of love that was kindled, connected us. And I know that from some of the sources that the ways of such teachers are extremely mysterious. Actions are often dictated by a vision and an understanding that's totally beyond my comprehension, and I suggest you would probably say the same. And I'd watched Maharishi's movements for months at a distance, and I could never predict what he was going to do next. One moment he appears like a child, ready to be led away to anything. And next moment there's maturity that comes up, and you know, the words are just so deep and profound. He looks at me, and then abruptly he stands up and he actually leaves the room. He says nothing. He just leaves. And I'm stunned. You know, and I leave the room a few minutes dejected. And I wonder, maybe he's not a real master for me or the right one for me. Why did he ignore me? I wondered. And 2 days pass in this confusion with no answer to my question. And I'm burning with it. You know, I really thought it was all forgotten. You know, 2 days passed, and in the middle of a lecture in front of hundreds of people, he looks directly at me and he says, on the level of the individual, I am your servant. On the level of the absolute, we are one. And I'm dumbfounded. You know, and all I could do is blurt out, oh, that's beautiful. And he says, of course it's beautiful, he replies, and continue his talk. What? I'm your servant? What? We're one. Everybody says oneness. Oh, yes, I'm one, you're one, that one. Yeah, okay. It's a cliche. Isn't there more than this? I need to know more than the words. I need to see this truth for myself. When will that happen? So then 2 days later, something happens. Something so inexplicable. Something so unbelievable. I'm telling you, it took me many years, decades to come to grips with it. 2 days later, I awake early in the morning to the reality of the words. And a great, great mystery opens before me. From deep sleep, I appear suddenly in another dimension I'd never known before. This is the plane of illumination, the plane of the enlightened mind that I'm trying to convey this story all about. One moment I'm in the deepest sleep. The next I'm floating on a plane of white light that extends from horizon to horizon. And I'm up in a space above the planet. There's no transition at all. One minute I'm in deep unconsciousness of the universe. The next moment I'm fully awake in limitless awareness. Everything that I see, the world and the universe, is illuminated by a mysterious light. You know, but in this space, I saw no stars, no moon, no heaven above. In fact, there's nothing. First, there is nothing. Just an unending field of brilliant white light and a vast ocean and a dark, featureless sky above me. Instantly, I realized that this is divinity. For the first time, I see clearly the truth that life, everything in existence, is composed of some infinite, immortal substance. Or at least this is how I interpret it. It's not a conclusion of logic. It's a realization of divinity, simple, complete, and instant knowingness beyond doubt. Where am I? What am I? I am neither in my body nor in a mind, as I've known it before. My form, if you could call a body, is unlike anything in the world that I'd seen before. like a bubble of awareness, crystal clear, floating in space, in a brilliant plane of light. Even without a body, or really of anything I could see in terms of a mind, I realized that I'm completely awake for the first time in my life. All my faculties are there. I can touch, but I have no hands. I can see, but I have no eyes. I can hear, but I have no ears. I can understand, think, and feel every way and in all directions at once, directly, intuitively, but there's no memory or mental faculty involved. Nothing exists but a limitless self in existence in all directions. All about me, everything is the same. And if there's any difference between myself and the universe, I can't feel it. Like a perfectly clear drop of water or a bubble floating in space, I'm shimmering knowingness, a pearl of moonlight in the deepest light. My formless form is all there is and is utterly pure. You know, innocently, I'm not used to this. I guess the mind is beginning to creep up. A memory comes, and I wonder, oh yes, I had a body. Where's my body? And I look down into this clear form, and in amazement, a pair of hands rises up in front of me. And I wonder about my legs. And then one leg comes out and pierces the bubble for me on the same side. And next moment, bloop, it's gone. They dissolve into that transparent, whatever it is, liquid bubble, and merge back into clear being. They dissolve back and disappear. Yet as this amazing thing happened, I'm not impressed at all, shocked at all. Absolutely unmovable is that awareness. I know and see and feel in all directions at once, and I realize all of a sudden that I'm not alone. Above me and to the right is another being, another formless bubble like this. And as I feel this new presence, an immeasurable feeling of joy, love, and compassion, powerful beyond anything I can describe, strikes my consciousness. And I realize in that moment, in this place, all the things that are so abstract to us, the divine and God's timeless eternal existence and love, are absolutely obvious and completely revealed. Now the brilliant horizon before me, an ocean of that love, I see and feel also an ocean of bliss. And it doesn't matter. Even such notions are too gross as I realize that this is all the source of such feeling. I'm feeling nothing. I feel nothing because there's no mind that I know of. There's no feelings. There's nothing to be impressed. I'm nothing and everything. And all I feel is supreme emptiness. And for the first time in my life, I'm completely at peace. I actually know what peace is. I feel nothing. Then suddenly, you know, I hear this presence, this other being speak with me. If you could call it speech, but a direct knowing, says this is the finest level of creation. And I brought you here because of your devotion to give you a boon of Ritambara Pragya. So that communication, that this is the finest level of life, and because of love and devotion, a gift is being given, something in Sanskrit. That's the community. It's instant, passed in words and the thoughts directly from awareness, because there's not like my awareness. The voice I hear is vast, timeless, and I know that this is the great one beside me who speaks within my soul. Speaks within my soul. What freedom, what compassion, what love. I am the same as this. We are one. And the difference between us is only in my understanding. And I know for complete certainty. And soon all the differences I was perceiving in my life will be gone. In that instance, nothing and everything is past. Eternity in an instant. And an all-knowingness of what it was, is. It will be shared in the same moment, hidden at the same time. And so as time passed in that state, which could have been seconds, hours, or ages, I suddenly awake back in my body. I say awake because it's not a transition from deep sleep to waking. And it's actually not true that I awoke then. But I find myself suddenly in my body and I open my eyes. And I realize in that instant how limited our consciousness is in this world, living in this tiny space. One moment there was all-knowingness, full perception, and cognition as if I had 1,000 eyes, ears in all directions. And the next moment I sit up and I peer through these two little holes and I reach out and I touch, smell, and taste. That awakening is no awakening at all. I feel as if I've gone actually to sleep. And the contrast between that experience and that pure pearl-like bubble and my present form is vast, complete, and absolutely crushing. I cry out in astonishment, gratitude, and loss. The echo of my astonishment and loss vibrates in the dark room. If I was not overwhelmed during that revelation, I'm certainly overwhelmed instead. Wonder fills my, what does this mean? What have I done to experience such a thing, to receive such a gift? And so as tears run down my face, I'm absolutely overwhelmed with love. I fall to the floor and I bow. I bow to God and to this mysterious being that has come. I cannot grasp what has happened. Something vast and unfathomable opened for a short time before me and shows me infinite love and the grace, and now that door had closed, leaving something incredible behind. So over the next few days, I contemplate the events. I think about them over and over again. Such a sweet feeling of love lingers in my heart. I feel the loss of that experience, but now I know at once, I know that someday I'll live that state fully. Many questions flood my mind. Who was this being that could give such a gift? I can't imagine that I've done anything that could deserve it. These words, you know, I'm not a Sanskrit expert. Ritambar Pragya, what is this? What is this level of creation, the finest level? Should I speak to Maharishi about this? Why do I feel such a reluctance to do so? Why do I feel there's something much more mysterious going on here? At first, the answers to these questions appear so simple. Maybe Maharishi has responded to my devotion with this gift, but something inside says no. There's a far deeper mystery here. My inner feeling is so strong, And I'm learning to depend upon it, and it's usually right. This being that I'd met on this finest level of creation appeared
Thanks for
vaster
joining
than any
us
human
in our
life.
YouTube channel, books,
How
podcast
can I
episodes
ascribe
on
such a
living the
life to
enlightened life,
somebody?
and autobiography with your host, Dr.
Who and what
James
was this
Yogadhi
being?
Weldon.
Why is it so suddenly come into my life? You know, in the last few weeks, I'd actually heard Maharishi talking about this Ritamvara Pragya experience. And he said it's really simple. It's the awareness that perceives the truth of a thought. What is the truth of a thought? I understand this to mean that this consciousness, anything can be known through thought alone, I guess. Right away, I did notice there was some change. Wherever I placed my attention, if you read some of the earlier stories as a childhood, I had my imaginary phone. I could connect to my friends and perhaps my father that passed. The flow of knowledge began. This is Pragya Yoga. And a friend of mine from Switzerland was a mechanic. I decided I would test it. And I remember my car back in the United States. And he knew about this car, this Austin Healey Sprite. He was a transmission expert. And I said, okay, let's test. Okay. So the transmission in this car was broken. And we were sitting at a table after lunch, and I suggested that I might experiment with this. And I said, I'll think of my car and see what is wrong. And I told him as I brought my car to my awareness, it comes to my inner vision. And I focus on the transmission. I can see gears and how they interpart. I don't know if it's true or not true, but I've never seen the inside of a transmission. And I draw on a piece of paper its part in one particular that appears to be broken, and he watches in silence. After I finish, he turns in amazement. This is exactly how the inner working parts of that particular transmission work. Even the sizes of the gear, the direction they turn seems to be right. The broken part that you saw would cause your particular problem. And I wonder about how is this different from the insights that came as childhood, I wonder. You know, sometimes unknown knowledge came. There is this state I'm talking about, the Turiya, the transcendental, the fourth state of consciousness, before the fifth, cosmic. And it seems as though now I had some reasonable control over that. From that moment, a new appreciation and understanding of such abilities. And those of you involved with the Sanyama program, seeing at a distance, hearing at a distance, a much clearer insight into how knowledge may flow directly. You know. How do you know? I don't know. You know. I have the faintest idea. Suddenly, limited insight that I had opens the possibility, becoming a flood of information from anything that I entertain. Play with this a little bit over the next couple of weeks, you know, and I think of my mother and I see her house in America and I can feel her state of mind and know some senses about what's going, not thoughts, but how is she doing? For a while I play about this in my mind, but I wonder, is this it? Is this all that this truth, consciousness, Ritam Pragya, Bara Pragya, is this it? And I feel grateful and know that a major turning point has happened in my life. And I've received a gift of love and an awakening of something, Pragya. And I know also that my life again will be never the same again. Just like that voice when I learned to meditate a couple chapters ago. My life will never be the same. Now we're here again. It dawns on me that I felt this being before, this being that I experienced. What I know now is that I will not be alone ever again. That aloneness that I had felt as a child is gone. There's a new appreciation of a presence, an existence, of something, someone, an awareness that I experienced somehow on this finest level of life. All of my life I'd sought truth. I wanted to know the truth of who I am, where I came from. I seek the truth, where will I go when this life was over? I see now that There may be some that do have the answers to that. Who knows for certain, except those that have passed beyond death and have come back? Who knows except those who fully realize the divinity all around us? A great mystery surrounds the blessings of such an enlightened being. This is one deep secret I want you to think about here. Their words carries enormous power to transform life. Such power might be painful. It may take many years of work and time, and it certainly did on my part to fulfill those words. But a few moments with such beings can totally transform the destiny of life. And honestly, I'm really ahead of myself here, but there are tens, if not hundreds of million people or more that are beginning to suspect some of this now. I remember an old Sanskrit saying about their words have the ability of making themselves fruitful. Such beings are the rarest thing and the rarest living being. Among great teachers, there is only a few who carry that kind of power. And I had somehow met such a being on a plane of light on the doorway of infinity, yet I had no idea who or what it was. It, just as quickly as it came, it vanished. And I prayed that maybe someday, I would be granted the ability to achieve the fruit of that. So whatever this is, pragya, Vitamara pragya, it's about truth. Somehow I came in contact with truth and it suddenly thrust itself into my life. My limited experiences before this makes see myself as just really a beginner in a much, much grander cosmic universe. Really, we are like that. But in the next few months, my body and mind changes in subtle ways. I get sick, and then my sinuses drain, and I wonder, I'm going through a lot of stuff. Throughout this, I feel well, but from a distance I'd never noticed before. There's a certain separateness. In my inner self, I see with a new dimension, untouched by the world. I see myself as a spectator in the world. Actions become almost automatic. My mind continues to play a role like an actor on a stage. I watch this play and I formalize an analogy to explain this new understanding. Let me share that story tomorrow. I do appreciate you taking the time. Take all of this at face value. But the point is that the possibilities for our life are huge. Our life is so much bigger than we ever imagined. Our connections with this truth, this is what we are. This is the essence of our being. And I'm hoping that sharing these words will help provide a bridge and inspire you, regardless of what they're going through. They're living in this tiny, tiny space. They're trapped with their thoughts and their anxieties and their fears. And by helping them come out of that, we come out. And we can only give away what we have. If we do not have love, we can want it, but you can't make it happen. If you want to bless the world, take care of your own inner space. Do that work. Follow the guidance of these great teachers. Learn from them. Come and see them, wherever they may be. And enjoy this little story, which is really crucial to my life. What I told today, I'm telling you, I live with is a huge enigma for decades before the answer to that was finally answered. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this very, very interesting passage that is at the heart of how amazed that I am of the life that is before us all. And my prayer is that every single being come into this space. It would be so easy for the rest of us. We were at the end of the line and everybody in this whole world was way ahead of us, think how much easier it would be. But unfortunately, such beings are rare. But in this incredible age, with traveling all around the world in video, you can gain access to this and connect with that. But take some time and be in the presence of the enlightened. Namaste.
Thanks for joining us in our YouTube channel, books, podcast episodes on living the enlightened life, and autobiography with your host, Dr. James Yogadhi Weldon.